Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the BTB Movie Club podcast. My name is Aaron Lashbrook. We hope you enjoy today's movie discussion. Thank you for listening.
Here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the BTB Movie Club podcast. My name is Tim Larson. I'm here with a whole bunch of friends tonight because we're discussing our 200th movie. Yes, I wrote this down. On June 14th, 2020, we discussed our first movie, Reservoir Dogs. In attendance for that discussion were my cousin Brian, my nephew Brandon, and our friends Matt Smith, Dan Sears, and Ryan Malo. 5 of those 6 original members are here tonight, along with present members Mike Wilden and Mike Hilty, who are not here, and Aaron Lashbrook, and a few others who have spent time discussing movies with us. Jen Larcher, artist formerly known as Jen Service, Patrick Trapp, Professor Trapp, and Ken Dentino, who may or may not show up. So allow me to be the first in the group to say congratulations to Jen on getting married this summer. That's the name change there. Here we go. The 200th pick was made by Aaron Lashbrook. It is the outstanding 1992 film, The Last of the Mohicans. In keeping with the title of this movie club, Aaron picked this film to bust my balls. I'm sure he'll be happy to tell everyone about that. But little did Aaron know that that we as a group have another inside connection to this movie. So, one member in this group contacted me and informed me they have a unique insight into this film. So I'll leave that as a teaser as Aaron is picking people for this discussion. We'll get to the bottom of that as well. So we got a couple of fun bombs here today. Welcome back, friends. Aaron, the 200th show is yours. Take it away.
Thanks, Tim. What an intro. What a big group we have here today. Trapp, I've met you. Jen, I'm Aaron. I haven't met you. Malo, it's good seeing you again. The rest of you, hi. So I picked this movie, and I and some of you guys might know it. I know, Brian and Tim know it. If this story hasn't come up already, Brian, Tim, and I lived together in college for a bit. A month that was one night or 6 months, depending on who you ask. And we played lots of different stupid games, most of them drunk. Brian and I had a long-standing game. I've known Brian quite a bit longer than I knew Tim. Brian introduced us. One of the games we would play, we'd call it Stump the Chump. And you'd say a relatively well-known but not on-the-nose movie line, and the person would have to guess what movie it was from, or it was just more of a back and forth thing while we were drinking and playing Resident Evil or Crash Bandicoot when Tim was around. And Tim heard us playing one day, sat down, said, "I'm next," and threw out the line, "I will find you." To which Brian and I had no clue what he was talking about. Not because, Brian, am I wrong? Had you seen the movie?
I had never seen it. No.
No, right, neither one of you assholes have seen this movie.
So it was worse that neither of us had even seen the movie. So it wasn't even like a big enough movie to be on our radar. But the other problem was we then proceeded to name 5 or 6 different movies or TV shows with the line in it, none of them being correct, and Tim getting more pissed off with each thing we said because he couldn't believe we didn't know the movie he was talking about.
You guys are so stupid.
So
yeah, he actually went one time. No, it's "I will find you."
Yeah, he kept saying it with different inflections.
Nope.
So, and it became a thing. So I had mentioned last week that this is probably the single standalone movie that I've never seen that I've thought more about in the last 25 years. It crosses my mind all the time. It comes up in commercials every time I hear it. I think of Tim. I think that was his subtle ploy to just ingrain himself into both of our brains with such a ubiquitous term that we'd never forget about Tim, no matter what would happen. I'm sure when Elon lands on the moon and the second group goes up, there will, one will say it to the other, you'll hear somebody say, "I will find you," and it'll be 2050 and I'll still be thinking of Tim. But so I calculated long ago, a couple months ago, that I was going to be the 200 pick. I knew it was going to be a special thing. Tried to give it to Tim. He wouldn't take it. So then I was like, well, now you're going to get it. So not that this is a huge punishment or anything, but just that we would get to tell the story. So I did a little research last week. I had mentioned that the novel that it's based on was written in 1829, or sorry, 1826. So almost closer to being 200 years old than 1829. It's considered a masterpiece of American literature. It's been made into 3 movies, 1920 version, 1936, and 1992.
Wait, you read the book?
I did not read the book.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, what?
I read an internet blurb that a book existed.
He read that there is a book.
Yeah, no, I did not read the book. Or see the 1920 or 36 versions of the movie, even though they're supposed to be great in their own rights for their time. So I had not seen it. Is there anybody here who watched it for the first time besides Brian? Or had everyone else here seen this movie? Everyone else here had seen it.
Like 4 or 5 times, easy.
I had seen
All
it.
right.
I had seen it once a long time ago, so it was practically the first time again for me
Okay.
because I
Same-
didn't remember
same here.
most of it.
Yeah, same here.
All right.
I have seen it.
You had seen it. And this is why. This is a movie that we should have seen in the movie group, so it even makes more sense, not just to bust Tim's balls. But Melo, you seem very excited about seeing it almost a half dozen times. So let's hear from you, and welcome back.
Welcome back, Melo.
Yeah. So I can't remember. I don't think I saw it in the theater. I don't know. I definitely might have. But like I said, I've seen it 4 or 5 times since. It's one of those that, when it's on, it stays on kind of thing. Always liked it. But surprisingly, like that said, it had been a while since I've seen it. And so there was, I didn't remember it exactly as well as I thought, going back through it. And then I took more notes than I thought I would. I thought I was just going to sit back and enjoy it. And then I got a little nitpicky on some stuff, but, yeah. So real quick, has anybody read the book or seen the other versions?
No,
I have not.
Okay. Me neither. I was just curious because this one, it said, Michael Mann, like they based it on the 36 screenplay. So I'm guessing that version is probably pretty authentic to this. I don't know.
I was going to try and get it in, but I didn't. The 1936 version is on Amazon for free. If anybody wants to follow up at another time and watch it,
I might check that out.
Yeah, and Melo, in one review that I read, they referred to the book and they said that it's barely readable. So, So if anybody was thinking, "Hey, I'll just pick this up tomorrow and give it a quick read," I don't know if that's your game.
Is it, Melo? Is it considered like a classic, the book? Because that name, I mean, don't most people write the author? I mean, he didn't write something else, did he?
I don't know of anything.
This is actually a sequel. I was just going to look that up. I'm taking it off your shoulders, Matt. Yeah.
No, I asked that more from your English teacher standpoint, if because he was like, I mean, that's a prominent author name. I mean, definitely heard it before. Last of the Mohicans.
Yeah, and I don't know if he's an American author or English or what. And I never taught junior English, which is that one that coincides mostly with American literature. So yeah, I don't know.
Well, one of the blurbs I did see is it is considered a masterpiece of American literature. So
okay, there you go. Speaking of nationality, first thing I wrote, or one of the first things I said, is it kick in the nuts to have an Englishman play this role? But then I was thinking, I don't know, I guess it would have been better if it was an American either. Everybody screwed him over. The way early on, a lot of the shots looked like paintings. There were some really cool set pieces over the bridge with the reflection. That when they had that kind of like the picnic out in the field, I thought those looked. They were just nice set pieces. And then I just started being stupid. When they're first having like their little meet cute kind of thing, they're laying looking at the stars. All I'm thinking, I'm like, how are there no mosquitoes? I put what's with the goth choir? They get to the fort and there's like the weird little middle school girl goth choir thing. Lewis had some real Clint Eastwood vibes going on in this. I think if this was made like 15 years earlier or something, I easily could have seen him in that role. I didn't realize until this watching, or I don't know, that she actually said it first. The I'll find you.
Mhm.
Thought that was kind of cool. Let's see. So that letter was authentic, right? That the French general, they intercepted. There were no reinforcements coming.
Yeah, I assume so.
Okay, because then like they checked and they're like, yeah, this is his signature. But I actually thought it would have been a pretty sweet move to, to say that they intercepted it to get them to surrender. But damn, Magua, that's some sad shit when he tells his story. The guy, he played Kobayashi in Usual Suspects.
Yeah.
He's in everything at this time. He's in this. I've been going back through the Alien movies. He was in Alien 3 or something like that. I can't remember. I didn't take the time to even look up his real name, but the guy's was in everything.
Pastelwaith, something like that.
Yeah.
I can't remember his first name, but
yeah,
I got it.
He was
Pete.
Oh yeah,
Postlethwaite.
yeah. He's in Jurassic Park 2.
okay.
Yeah.
Which is probably 93 or something like that, right?
Yeah.
So they were escaping the ambush, and I said they picked up a red shirt because they actually had two guys with red shirts. So I was thinking they were going to get killed or whatever right away. And then later, when they do get captured, those guys aren't even there anymore. So I don't know if there was a scene that was cut where they get killed or whatever. I actually didn't understand, which is a really dumb thing to admit, but it's a vital component or part of the plot. Why did they jump over the falls there? Why was that the best move?
I have the same question actually, but a little different. Why didn't the women jump with him?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, or that
He
too.
said,
Sure.
He said to her, if we're not here, then they might quit following us, and there won't be a fight. But
Well,
there's still
I
even
knew
the
the
women.
gunpowder was the gunpowder was wet, so I knew they couldn't fight that way.
Right.
But yeah, right. They just jumped and left them. I didn't quite get that.
Yeah, basically
But
when like this.
I felt like it was because they're such good trackers that they knew where they could go, and then he already had the plan in his head that they would take them back to the Huron camp or whatever, and then that way he could go there and he would go in peace type of thing like he did. That's why I thought they were jumping. Yes, yeah, he would find them.
He would definitely find them.
That does make sense.
I will.
And I also get why the English guy is like, that's a terrible plan. I do not like this plan.
Yes.
Is it really finding
guy
her
over the
if he
head?
knows where he's going to be?
A couple other things. The father gave the eulogy in English at the end. That seemed strange. And then I think the last thing I put, they really getting their money's worth out of this theme. That was throughout the whole movie. But I mean, so obviously little nitpicky things. It's a great movie. It's there's constant action, a lot of woodland jogging, but it adds suspense and what are they going to do? The double crossing and all of that going on. It's it's interesting. It kind of reminds me a little bit of like the World War I stuff we talked about, where I just didn't know that much about the French and Indian War. Still probably don't, but it's intriguing to get a glimpse into that where otherwise, it's just not something that I spent a lot of time with. But fun. I don't know about fun, but anyway, good movie. It's a good watch. So appreciate it.
Cool. Couple things you brought up, the jumping through the water, like all three of those things I totally agree with. I've got one more. The I thought, and I could be wrong about this, you were talking about the goth girls singing. I thought that was, I don't an acknowledgement. I wouldn't call it a nod to. Maybe the it's really bad. The Christianizing of the native people, taking their children's, putting them in schools and stuff. And at this time, it'd probably just be with a priest at a parish or whatever, and just teaching them the right songs to sing. So I thought it was kind of acknowledging that without getting too in your face about it, not getting too political or anything. So kind of, it was like kind of sad. The other thing, my wife walked into the room last few minutes or whatever, and I literally said, that guy hasn't spoke English the entire movie, when he was given the eulogy. And then he was like, I was like, where is this coming?
I'm the last of the Mohicans. Like, what the fuck?
Right.
Yeah.
So that was funny. And then one other thing that, and maybe somebody else would have caught, the view of the vistas at the end. Did anybody have a comment on that when they were sitting on the rocks?
It's the same as where we started, right?
I didn't really notice the expanse of, I would definitely call them mountains. They were not, they were rolling mountains, but with that, I looked up where it was actually shot compared to where it was supposed to be, and it doesn't match. So
North Carolina, right?
Yeah,
they do
right,
North Carolina.
Yeah, and it's supposed to be, middle of New York State. So,
Adirondack Mountains.
Well, yeah, they chose to do North Carolina though because New York didn't look like that anymore.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, hard to find.
The state,
hard to find area like
even upstate. They said it was logged out and like it just didn't look even remotely close. So
okay, I got it, but I was just like, that kind of threw me off at the very end too. I'm like, this isn't New York. Hurons. I'm thinking something. Melo brought up the mosquitoes. Somewhere near Michigan, New York. This kind of 43rd parallel. Where I didn't think, and maybe there are or were similar mountain ranges like that. But whatever.
If Hilty was here, he would say, "Shut up, nerd."
Okay. And I would take it. I would deserve it. All right. So I'm counting you as a returner. So I think I'm going to bounce back and forth between, returners and people who've been here since I've been here consistently. Wow, I don't even really can't call Matt in that because he misses quite a bit too. But I'm going to go. I'm going to go to Matt because he's a good bridge between the returners and the people who make it every week.
Well, I missed 1 week, Aaron.
Yeah. Says the guy who's been in the movie club for 3 months.
There's always an email though. Gonna be late. Might not make it. Got ball.
Yeah, there's always something. No, so do you so the number 1 movie, Tim mentioned it, was Reservoir Dogs, also 1992. So I found that ironic that we're opening and closing. Well, we're not closing, but
Wait,
and
are you making an announcement here?
I meant to do that.
And I like to do this, you guys know, with some of these movies, just other movies that came out. Unforgiven was 92 as well. We've seen that in this group. Few Good Men, Scent of a Woman, My Cousin Vinny, some good stuff. So
this movie wasn't even nominated for a best, was it?
No, I don't believe so. It was.
Wasn't?
I got it for sound, I think, but I don't think it was nominated for. I'm sure he was nominated, right? But anyway, so
he didn't win.
Yeah, I hadn't seen this in forever. It came out in 92. So, I mean, when it came out, I was in 5th grade, 6th grade, something like that. So I know it always makes you guys shake
Thanks
your head.
Thanks for pointing that out.
So I was pretty young. I actually knew it more, and Jen and I have talked about this. I actually knew it more for the music than I knew it for the movie, because this music was on all the time in my house. And I was talking to my wife. Her dad actually owned the soundtrack and would play it like on Sunday mornings to wake them up for church. Like that was what he did. He just jammed it over the whole house from the living room. So we were
all
both
the time.
we were both talking about the music. And I love the theme. Don't get me wrong. Somebody said, Melo, like you getting the money's worth out of that theme. Well, you got to, when you take something from someone else and you pay for the rights to it. You got to use it as much as you can. But anyway, so yeah, I mean the movie's fine. I hadn't seen it in so long. I think I was expecting something different. I can appreciate the cinematography of this movie. There's beautiful shots. That I know it's not historically accurate, but I can appreciate them at least making it look historically accurate, if that makes sense. Like I felt like I could have been in that fort and with the powder guns and the mortars and the Native American war parties and stuff. I just thought it was done really well. It made me at least believe it was authentic, which I can appreciate. Sometimes you see a movie like that and it's like, okay, would they have really done that? And I didn't find myself saying that at all, other than the white Native American. But other than that, I know that's part of the story, but the white guy who's an Indian all of a sudden. No, I thought I like I said, I hadn't seen it in so long, it's practically new. I thought there was more leading up to sort of the love stories. I felt like that was just all of a sudden they're like, "Oh, I love you." And oh, my brother also loves your sister. So even though there's been no words spoken at all between them, they're in love now. I thought that was kind of funny, but whatever, like it worked. Everybody had to watch the director's cut, right? Like there's no other version of this anymore.
Yeah.
Unless you have it on DVD from 1992. Or
I watched on TV.
I had my choice. Like they were right next to each other.
They're very similar. Like it's like 112 minutes to 119 minutes as a total range. It's not that much of a difference.
I did not have a choice. I could not find a non-director's cut on Amazon. So maybe I wasn't looking the right spot. I saw the 1936 movie and I saw the director's cut. That's all I saw.
Yeah, I saw a bunch of, and I just went through Xfinity. So
Okay.
like I rented it through 20th Century
So
Fox.
I don't know what's different. I know he made a 3-hour cut of this. That was his first cut. And 20th Century Fox was like, no, you can't do that. So I know he cut it down to 2 and he wasn't happy. And so he recut it, but it's still 2 hours. It's weird. No,
I think we were talking about the love story part of it. I think a lot of that got cut.
Oh, okay. Okay. That makes more sense then. Because it just felt weird. Like, I mean, I get it. It's a movie. I can suspend my disbelief for a little while, but like that was like quick. Like, oh, we love each other and we're gonna make love in this place where this British guy loves me is weird. Anyway, no, it was good. It was good. What else was I gonna say? The music, the scenery was great. I know it didn't look like New York, Aaron. Sorry. 1700s New York. Um, but like I said, it made me believe I was in the 18th century a little bit, which I appreciated. I think the ending is sort of like, is there more to it? And they just decided to end it, and I'm fine with that. Like that doesn't actually bother me that much. If there's more to it in the book or in a sequel, but I thought the ending was pretty powerful with the little sister sort of just biting it and saying, I love this man, even though I've known him for 3 days, and I'm going to throw myself off the cliff. I thought it was actually pretty powerful and sad. And now this father who has no real son, he just has this kid he raised, this white man that he raised himself. And so Last of the Mohicans. So I thought the ending was well done. Thought the movie was well done. I don't think it's a classic or anything. I know maybe people disagree, but I think like I said, since I hadn't seen it in so long, I think maybe my expectations were a little bit higher. Like, oh yeah, that's a great movie. And I was like, it's a good movie. I wouldn't call it a great movie. It's a good movie. Yeah, I would watch it again. Somebody said when it's on, it stays on. I would agree with that. I wouldn't turn it off, but yeah, so good stuff. I'm sure we'll come back around on some stuff, but good pick. Even for 200, I like it. Good job.
It was a spiteful pick. You were talking like
totally
right,
fair,
so
by the way.
I really liked the only thing was the rolling hills at the end. Like other than that, I thought it was all good.
I'm just busting your balls.
That's fine. But I wanted to get your opinion on so you mentioned the scenery a few times, and I think it even came up before. It took you that long to find it.
No, I was waiting for the right moment.
Oh,
Yeah.
that is the right moment.
For
That's
the
good.
for the audio listeners, Tim just put "I love New York" as his background on behind him. So.
Not North Carolina. It doesn't say I love North
And I have
Carolina.
Alicia Keys in the back of my head right now, and I can't get it out. I screwed myself on this.
But 1991, 92, when this was being filmed, did you notice the scenery and some of the shots, like the woods and everything else? Did some of it to you seem claustrophobic, like really tight to be in a giant woods? Like there were some scenes I was like, is this on a soundstage? Like, and then I'm looking around and I'm like, it can't be fake. But they used to be really good at that kind of stuff without just throwing CGI at everything.
Right.
So they used to build huge sound stages, and but I'm like, no, there's water running like for a quarter mile through this scene. It can't be.
No,
Right.
I think it's pretty. I know it's not the same state, but like if you go, I'm thinking like the untouched lands of Montana. I've gone hiking in Montana before, and if you go through the forest, it's like that. It's pretty. You can get some dense areas where it's kind of tight, and there's just little paths that you kind of have to follow. So I think it was believable. Like I said, I know it wasn't New York officially, but none of us were alive in 1757 either. So,
right.
None of us know what New York looked like, other than maybe for some, photographs. When did photographs start? Was that even a thing? I don't know. So,
it just had to be real still.
Yeah, yeah, right. So, no, I thought it was believable. I thought it didn't take away from anything in terms of that anyway.
Well, and the takeaway part that you just brought up, even though some of the scenes, like I said, seemed kind of obviously in the fort, close quarters, and then big wide shots outside, what I really liked, and in some movies it'll take you right out of it, I think we've talked about it before, it's like the film quality never changed. Right. It's not like it got grainy on an outdoor shot and really bright and colorful and crisp, indoors. And, sometimes the, film and, it's that kind of stuff that I don't know about cinematography.
Yeah.
That sometimes it'll change and it'll be like, oh, it's almost like it's a different movie shot by a different person for these couple scenes that they're trying to fill in or whatever.
Well, and from all accounts, Michael Mann is pretty particular about those kinds of things. Like they filmed those night scenes all at night, like they would go all night. There's a funny story about they would use speakers to talk to across the whole, because they had hundreds of extras and they had to like talk to everybody at the same time. He'd use these huge speakers and they'd be working all night, and then he'd yell, "Somebody turn off that orange light," and somebody came back with, "Michael, that's the sun. Like it's time to stop now." Like so I would imagine that that's a Michael Mann thing. Like he wanted the authenticity. He didn't even let the actors use stand-ins for some of the fights and stuff. So I think he probably tried his best to make that authentic. He did go $7 million over budget. So
Jeez. Cool. Well, cool for the movie, but not.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it made like 140 something. So I think
they
they're
did
okay. They did okay.
All right. Thanks, Matt.
Yep.
Jen, could I hear from you?
Yes, of course. So I'm going to apologize. 2 of my 3 children are playing and there's a lot of screaming going on in the background, but Jason is trying to contain that a little bit, but that's normal in our household.
Yeah. For those of you guys new to the Jen experience in this movie club, that's very normal.
Yes. So I am going to apologize that I have to do this way because it's really not me, but I didn't get a chance to go through, but I'm going to start with this picture that my dad sent me. So my dad is actually in the movie The Last Mohicans.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
that's so cool.
Wow.
It's really cool.
Yeah. So when Tim told me that this was the movie, I was like, oh my gosh. I'm like, this is a movie I have seen 500 times because this was playing all the time in our house after he went and filmed it. The soundtrack is like, the second I hear that, I'm like, okay, I know what it is. Like, it's just soundtrack of my childhood, one of them. So afterwards I kind of called my dad and I was like, Dad, he's met a lot of actors. I said, did you meet Daniel Day-Lewis? He did not meet Daniel Day-Lewis. But he did send me some pictures, so I'll share some of those as well. He was on set for about 5 days. And during those 5 days, he said that he got about 12 to 18 hours of sleep total.
How many mosquito bites?
Oh, he said it has been it was the most miserable movie he has been on. And little side note, he worked with Michael Mann again and got to meet him and said, "This is my second movie with you." And Michael Mann said, "Oh, what other one?" He said, "Last Mohicans." And Michael Mann looked at him and said, "I'm really sorry. That was a tough one."
Wait, tell him, Jen, tell him why your dad was picked for this movie.
Yeah, so my dad was picked because we did Revolutionary War reenacting when I was a kid.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, so I grew up doing Revolutionary War reenacting. Like every weekend, we've gone all over the country. We've gone to Niagara Falls and stayed in the forts at Niagara Falls doing all of this. So it's a big part of me growing up and doing this. So he told me a lot of cool stories. Like I said, I've seen the movie a million times. It is very funny to me knowing what I saw as a kid, because as a kid, you don't understand what's going on. And then I watched it. I mean, we talked about it a couple of years ago. Like in the past couple of years, I watched it and I said the same, like, there's a lot of running and music in this movie. And then I watched it the other night, texting my dad, kind of talking. So funny thing with my dad is when the French are doing their trenches and everything like that, like digging the trenches to go closer and closer, my dad is a Frenchman. Like he is down there doing all that kind of stuff. But then when they take over the fort, he is then no, you cannot have it. Sorry. He is an Englishman coming out of that. Welcome to my world. Yes. And my dad was very specific in saying they are not marching correctly.
Oh.
Yep, sorry. We're getting all sorts of, yeah. Brady.
Because you're talking about Grandpa. They want to know all about it, right?
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So Jen, if somebody would say to you, "I will find you," would you immediately be like, "Oh, ask the Mohicans," or would you not come up with it right away?
No, not right away, but the
Okay.
second that like I heard that, because I hadn't seen it in so long, and as a kid, I did not fully understand the movie. So I think now, but like my dad used to tell me, I'll show you another picture here in a second, but my dad had long hair down to the middle of his back. So my dad used to tell me that Cora did not like the way that Daniel Day-Lewis kissed. So therefore, he was the person that stepped in for Daniel Day-Lewis and did all the kissing. So that, yes, Grandpa.
Yeah.
Grandpa's Daniel Day-Lewis.
No, Grandpa is not Daniel Day-Lewis.
Mhm.
But here are, okay, it's some pictures.
He's Pete Postlethwaite.
Yeah. So here is one. My dad is in the middle. Brady, get out of here. My dad is in the middle there. So really cool.
Wait, Grandpa was part of World War?
No.
What was he?
Yes.
This is like, good Lord.
Mommy, we might have.
Oh, this is a cool one.
Oh, nice.
That's my dad and one of, yeah. So those are a couple that he's going through his album right now and he is updating some. No. Okay, thank you. Go away. He did send me this picture as well.
Oh, cool.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
He's
So
great.
like he's met he got to do a lot of those cool things and everything like that. He said it was, Brady, go away. It was like 88, 90 degrees out and they were wearing those suits all day. So that they were just sweating, which they're used to, like with reenacting, they're totally used to that. But then all the extras were put up in a campground. So they were also camping. And he was like, it was so wet and rainy. So they would get soaked all night and they were like not dry the entire time they were there. So that was kind of interesting. We did take a family vacation to look at the hill that the fort was on. The fort is no longer there. They said that during filming, the wood boars were already eating it. So there was no way it was going to last. They could hear them eating it. And what else did he say? Trying to think of one other thing that he said.
Let me throw something in there real quick. I asked
Yeah.
Jen last week, I was like, hey, do you think your dad would want to show up in the Zoom meeting and just kind of talk about it a little bit? And she goes, yes, he would. And the problem is we'd never get him to shut up about it.
Were those his personal pick? Like, I know some of them that he's in, obviously other people took them, but like he had a camera, he was just handing to people and be like, hey, could you get a picture of me?
Yes.
That's
So they
really
were,
cool.
yeah, they were definitely, like he did Public Enemies also, and they were very strict about cameras a lot of the time. But like they were pretty okay with the cameras as long as they weren't out, obviously, during times of filming and everything like that. But what he did say, and I was kind of bummed that I didn't have enough time to do this because I could have come dressed in one of the outfits. So he has one of the outfits still.
Wow.
So he bought it.
awesome.
And then when they like changed a certain for one of the British scenes, it had a different front. So they gave them a felt piece that they spent the night sewing on just the front part so that they didn't have to get a whole new uniform. And the muskets were not taken care of properly. So all the reenactors got there and cleaned and redid all of the muskets.
Wow.
They didn't bring their own.
Does he still do this?
Well, my dad is a serial hobbyist, so he jumps from hobby to hobby.
Sure.
So while he would like to, none of the stuff that he made for himself back then fits anymore. So
We all have that problem.
Yeah, he's gone a couple times with some of his old friends, but he hasn't reenacted because his stuff no longer fits. But we used to do the one at Cantini out here all the time. And when Morgan, who's 10, was just born, I took her and I actually saw people that I reenacted with when I was younger doing it there. So I'd like to go back and see some of that. But yeah, he's done a lot with reenacting and probably would like to do it again, except for the sleeping part, because we slept on like straw and in canvas tents and all of that stuff. And I don't think that he would do that anymore. Sorry, somebody's trying to pick out Halloween costumes at the same time. And
It's just fun.
Most important thing in the world right now.
no, I don't want to see what's in your cart.
No.
But yeah, so I love this movie for like the sentimental part of it for me. It was a lot of fun talking to my dad and having him go back through a lot of those things. I think it was very interesting for me to rewatch it now and really understand and watch and know the parts my dad is talking about, like when they're doing the surrender part. My dad is on the front line, but he's not sure where, but I think you can see him on one of the cuts. So I was like pausing every second, like to try to see if I could see my dad. So just kind of interesting stuff.
Were there some instances where you clearly saw him, like in other scenes, where you like, or did you just know the area he was in?
Yeah, like
in the trench.
most of the scenes, like in the trenches, like I don't think you could see them because they were just all over the place, and it depends on what they used. I know there's a scene where everybody's running down a hill, that you can see him. He can see him. Like us, it's like, oh, there you go, that kind of thing. The one for sure is when they are doing the surrender, and he used to say it was like under the guy's cuff that you could see him. But it's been so long that, and like every time I pause, all the pop-ups that come up from when you pause now, it's not like a full screen pause anymore. So I'm talking.
It's almost so that.
Oh, no, you cannot add it to the cards. So
Unless it's a French and Indian War, accurate coat.
They did
The
not
French.
talk the entire time anybody else was talking.
Until you
It's
started
right
talking.
right when I start talking, everybody has
Yeah.
to come by me.
As Melo would say, that tracks.
Yeah, yeah. So, and just FYI, my dad is texting me nonstop now.
Tell them we're
All sorts
very
of things.
interested.
Yeah.
So
That's awesome.
yes, he is. He just sent this one.
That's so cool.
Of him getting done in the French outfit and everything. So yeah, it's pretty cool. He's got a whole album, and I said, don't send the whole album, Dad. So yeah, but it's pretty cool. Pretty interesting. He loves doing it, so pretty darn cool. And I felt like this was perfect for me to be part of this one.
Well, I do like how one of the little interruptions you had, you were just talking about the English at the fort and then the French coming up, and then you're like, no, you can't have it. That's exactly what the English were saying. But
Jen, how young were you when you did your first reenactment?
They were doing it when I was a baby.
Oh, so you remember doing it when you were really little?
We did it. Yeah, we did it all the way through. No, don't raise your hand. I'm not talking to you right now. We did it all the way through, gosh, probably like me being in 6th grade. Like we did it for quite some time. And like I have a lot of memories. Like I don't know the exact places, but I could tell you the different things. The monuments were there, or like certain places had like shops, and it's pretty cool. I remember Niagara Falls. I remember going to that, and I was pretty little for that. So
Jen, were you there watching on the side, or did you dress up as a little girl that was kind of off to the side of the action?
Nope, I dressed up.
Cool.
Yeah, so my dad made all of our outfits. He sewed all of our outfits.
No pictures of that?
No, I have pictures of that. I do. There's
of him sewing?
No, not of him sewing. Well, probably somewhere, but I'll find it when other people are talking. The one of us as a family reenacting.
Oh, great.
But yeah.
Cool. Hey, last question I have for you that Aaron wouldn't know to ask. Sibling wise, you just have a sister, right?
Correct. Yes.
As you're watching this movie and there's a girl and her sister, do you feel any kind of kinship to the sisters in this movie? Or are you just like, I've seen this so many times, there's no way I could even relate to any of the characters? Because
no, I find it very interesting, because I don't think when I was younger, I didn't know. I did not know. Like, I feel like their age difference is more than I thought it was when I used to watch it. But kind of seeing that like protective piece of it, and how young and naive she was, just was interesting to me. And then kind of going on what Matt was talking about with like how they fell in love. Like I always remembered there being more of the love story, but I like, obviously that's just my childhood part of it. And at the end, her taking her own life, like I do think it was a little bit about love, but also that these people like were protecting them, and with that no longer, like that protection not being there, and her going with them and not knowing her future or where other things were going, she was just like, I'd rather be at peace than do this, because they've been so cruel.
Yeah, that's the sad
how
part.
I saw it too. There was some violence that was going to happen to her that she'd probably rather not happen. So that's how I saw that.
Yeah. One more piece. The English guy that goes with them that gets burned at the stake never remembered his lines. They had to reshoot those all the time. He never remembered his lines. Yeah.
He looked like a wanker.
Yeah, I did not like him right up till the end.
Yeah.
But probably needed anybody else if they kept him out there for hours and hours and hours.
Yeah. So yeah, that's my last Mohicans experience.
Excellent. I don't know. I'm glad I picked you. I kind of wish maybe saved it more towards the end because that's going to be the most amazing part of the whole thing, probably, right? Unless Brian's got something in his hat that he's going to pull out. But thank you.
So I'm guessing that was the thing, Tim, you
Scally.
brought up, the connection.
No, that wasn't even it. I didn't know that was
Shut
coming
up.
Because if somebody's got more than that,
Yeah.
holy crap.
That's good. Mike, how you been?
Tired. How are you?
Yeah, you look it.
Coming in from Europe.
I do like your shirt though. I didn't know if you were trying to
Oh.
point it out specifically or because it's a big
Thank
camera
you.
shot when you first walked in, but good.
Where
Excellent.
are you today?
Were you laying on the bed at one point too? That was going to get awkward.
I'm sitting on the bed currently because the only light I have is there, and I don't know. It was just I was in silhouette form earlier, so yeah, I am in
let's get your
Florence,
thoughts.
Italy. So it's 3:23 in the morning currently.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah, gladly. It worked out. All right, so everybody, I mean, I think it's a given that Daniel Day-Lewis is an excellent actor. I was pretty impressed with the special effects. I wasn't expecting the spaceship to show up. I didn't watch the movie. I really
take
wanted to
back what I
watch
said.
this. No, I know. I was excited about this when you picked this earlier because I actually really wanted to watch this movie, and there's no service over here that allows me to see it. And I wanted to rent it on YouTube, but apparently my Google Play balance is only redeemable in the United States. And a VPN would not fool YouTube into letting me do that. So I was kind of out of luck. But I did want to be here just because this is, movie 200, and this movie group has meant a lot to me. The people that are in and have been in this group, I appreciate you all. There was a point in time, there've been a couple points where there's a couple month stretch where like, this is the only thing I really had to look forward to in the week. And so, this is a big deal for me. So I didn't want to miss this. And even though I'm contributing absolutely nothing to the talk, I am glad to be a part of it. So I will yield my time from there, but thank you guys.
Being the international component is all you need to be, Mike.
Yeah.
Here we go. I found the reenacting picture.
Oh, come on.
Oh, that's great.
That's adorable. If anybody's listening to podcast, she's showing a picture of her dad. Is that your mom as well?
That's my mom, and then I'm the older kid, and then my little sister.
Yeah. Oh, you guys are sitting on a porch all dressed up. That's adorable.
Yeah. So I think this one might be at Niagara Falls.
Oh, sweet.
And your dad made all those.
My dad sewed all of them, even not my mom's wooden shoes, but like we used to have to wear moccasins. And I chose to go barefoot because I did not like the moccasins.
Right.
Did you like the rest of it though? Like when they were like, "Hey, we're going to wherever to do a thing this weekend," were you like, "Sweet, awesome"?
Yeah, like I had like so many good friends, like kid friends that you just saw them every weekend, and we would run around, and like you could not have modern toys out, like even hair ties that they use. My dad had little leather strips and everything. Coolers had to be hidden in the tent, like you couldn't have any of that stuff out. So it's just like I just remember like showing of the colors, like loving to watch showing of the colors, where everybody marches, the music at night, like all of it is just like ingrained in my brain, and such like a fun experience like to have and remember. And yeah, like we just had like these little canvas like smock dresses, like he didn't dress up in like anything crazy fancy, and you just run around and you're a kid, and it's fun.
We have similar, like, did you ever go up to Mackinac Island? Or because I know they run the whole island pretty much like that. Or at least big sections of it, like our 5th grade classes and stuff go up there.
Yeah. Okay, so here's a little other piece of my life. We'd go on vacations, right? So like we went to North Carolina to look at this hill, and we're like, Dad, this isn't a vacation. Like, we don't want to see the hill that nothing is on, that you ran around on. Like, can we go somewhere else? So we go to all these places because he loves history. But like the thing is, we'd go to Williamsburg and like all these other places that do reenacting of everything, and he would make us dress up. So then people are like walking around at like Gettysburg, Williamsburg, like all these places, asking us questions, and we're like, we don't know, like, but my dad's like, I know. And we're like, Dad. So we had to do that for years, and it was always funny dressing up at these places that you're vacationing, and I'm like, this is not a vacation.
Would he ever correct the person talking to the audience? Like, well, actually,
He, if they were wrong, he will correct them. But he does it in a really like respectful way. Like, he wouldn't just call them out. He'd be like, did you know, like off the side later, and the guy's probably like, I got another group I got to talk to, and my dad's still sitting there talking, and we're always like, Dad, let's go anywhere he goes.
Hey, Jen, did you have a favorite place that you guys did a reenactment? I didn't realize you'd gone to so many places. You mentioned Niagara Falls earlier. Like, was there a place is there a place you remember in particular?
Yes. Vincennes. So this place had a giant monument, and it has these giant, they're not stairs, but these giant sections that lead up to like the center of the monument. And as kids, we would just run around, and you jump from one to the other. It had modern bathrooms, which is what we love the most about it. Because you can go to the monument and go in the bathroom. But it also had the place that had the best like shops. So like I have, and actually my son has it now, like a rabbit skin purse. We used to get rock candy all the time when we would go to there. And I always thought that rock candy was only made at like the Rev War reenactments. I didn't know that it was like a normal thing. But Vincennes is like the place that I remember the most, and probably we went there the most too. It was closer.
Oh yeah.
So like the bigger trips didn't happen all the time, but like, I mean, we've gone all over the place. My dad probably more than me, like with the kids. So
That's super cool.
yeah.
all right. Well, Dan, since Mike really didn't count, I'm gonna go to you for the daily or the weekly one, the non-new returner, new returner.
All right. Yeah, while this movie's going on, I'm thinking poor Wes Studi. I mean, he's always playing the Native American who's the asshole.
Yeah, he is.
You know, he does that in several movies. I remember he was in Geronimo, where he wasn't a well-liked character.
Got a lot of screen time in Geronimo, though. A lot of screen time. Wes is doing okay.
But yeah, he made a career out of it. I mean, hey, more power to him. But that being said, I was so glad when he was killed at the end. It's like, you know, he was such a jerk throughout the whole movie. He kills, you know, the guy's son, and so I'm just thinking, you know, I hope you get your comeuppance here at the end. I actually saw this movie in the theaters in '92 when it came out, and that's the last time I saw it. So I really didn't, you know, remember a whole lot of it. So this was good to go back and revisit it again. Because I really like it. I really like this movie. I don't know if you guys had this, but one problem was the night scenes were really dark.
Really dark.
And it was hard to see. Yeah, if there was no explosions or fires or anything like that, it was hard to see what was going on.
Super dark. I had to turn my TV contrast and brightness all the way up.
Okay.
I think
I wasn't sure if it was just my TV or.
Let me see what you guys think about that. And I think Hilty would be a good guy to have here because he knows some of the technical background stuff.
Are you sure he's seen it?
Yeah, I would assume, but this is just general knowledge. Do you think that's technology in the 90s versus TVs that we have now? Because I notice sometimes you watch stuff from the 90s on a modern day TV and there's a little bit of loss from what I remember seeing back in the day to what I can see now on a TV. Like maybe television technology has surpassed how well they shot the movies.
Are they able to enhance that like they do with like music, where they're able to enhance music? Are they able to enhance it? Because when I was renting it, it said it was the director's definitive cut, which also was another. I don't think I've ever seen it say definitive as opposed to just director's cut. So I thought maybe they'd improved it.
I'm going to assume that they can, but on this one they haven't.
Hmm.
That's what I'm going to assume.
Yeah,
But
I don't think they
that's
have
why I'm
improved
asking.
it. I do think it looked better. Again, this is going back to my childhood on our, smaller screen and everything. I do think it looked a lot better looking at all of those than it does on our newer TVs.
Yeah.
I definitely had some, and I didn't know if it was my TV, which isn't the greatest TV. There were some scenes that was really tough for me to hear them too.
A little bit.
When they would talk, like a lot of people were saying a lot of things, and then they'd leave the room, and it'd be like, "What did I just, what?" So, but I noticed the darkness too. But I thought, my TV.
I had that with the voices also, and a couple times where they were by a river, you could hear the river, was drowning out some of the voices. So, okay. A couple things, bringing, these women into the fort during a middle of a battle. I mean, is that really such a good idea? Especially Daniel Day-Lewis said he didn't want any part of this. So why is he going into the fort, at this time? If I was them, I'd, hang out in the woods for a few days and see what happens, what happens with the battle, rather than getting right into the middle of it. The British officer, his name was Major Duncan Hayward. What a jerk. I mean, Daniel Day-Lewis saves him, from the Huron ambush, and then he's just a jerk to him throughout the rest of the movie. I know
Well,
he's,
have you hanged?
Yeah, I know he's kind of thinking he's stealing his woman, but be a little grateful for having him save your life. He was, but it sounded like she didn't really want to be with him anyway, because she kept, saying she was putting it off, her decision. And so, if she really loved him, she would have went with him a long time ago. But yeah, the scenery in this movie is great. All the mountain views and the rivers and the woods. It's all pretty awesome. Magua tries to justify to his, Huron chief about why he attacked them. And he said, well, I did it, basically as a favor to the French, because these Brits would have gone back into the war and would have been fighting after they surrendered. So I was doing you a favor, basically by attacking them and, killing most of them. But what a despicable character he was. The only thing is right at the end, when, before the girl commits suicide, he holds his hand out to her, and was that a moment of sympathy for her, that he wanted to help her? Or is he just, I just don't want to kill you yet, I'm gonna wait and do it later?
I believe he definitely wanted to torture her.
Yeah,
he wanted to keep her around for a long time.
Yeah, because he said he wanted to make her suffer, like her father, he let him know that he wasn't going to let any of his kids live.
And there wasn't even as much as an aw shucks when she jumped. He was just like, like there was no shoulder shrug or anything, just turned and walked away.
It's like, I didn't get to kill her. Mm-hmm. Part of me wants to believe that he was like, nope, the council decided and she's going to be my wife, so I'm reconsidering how much I hate her, and this is what life is going to be like. Don't leave, we'll figure it out. Part of me wants to do that. But when he's leading them as they think he's Mohican and a guide in the beginning of the movie through the woods, he starts talking in his own native language right to that English captain, like, you dogs think that whenever the women say something, you just bow to their weakness and blah blah blah. I don't think you come back from that. You don't switch from that mentality. I don't think. He wanted to kill her.
Yep. Okay. That's what I was thinking too, but I was getting your guys' opinion about that. But yeah, I'll say some things for other people, but yeah, really good movie. I liked it. I remember liking it when I saw it in the theaters years ago. So it was cool to go back and see it again. Good pick.
I get your categorization as despicable, but one thing I found pretty much right from the start, other than um the frontiersmen, so Daniel Day-Lewis and his group, and then the frontiersmen they were friends with, I didn't really find anybody I was rooting for. I didn't want to root for the French. I didn't want to root for the English. I didn't want to root for the Mohawk. I didn't want to root for the Huron. That was real tough. Or like I also kind of saw everybody's point of view a little bit. Even Magwa's, he'd been through a lot. You
Yeah.
watch everything get devastated. That's kind of a eye for an eye. He didn't have any love for uh, uh, the gray hair or whatever he called that general of the fort. He really wanted to make him suffer for what he did to him. So I kind of understood that, but he obviously, something snapped and he took it.
But yeah, going after his daughters, that's
Right.
Going too far.
I agree. Thank you. Trap, what are your thoughts on Last of the Mohicans?
I think some of the majority of my thoughts were, well, now Matt's not here, but Matt said a lot of the same things that I was thinking about. Because I also just saw it when it came out and then watched it again, and I should have written down what Matt said because now I'm not remembering, but like I remember when you were talking, I was like, almost everything you said was like my thoughts of how I experienced it again. Especially about like I remember it being like as much a romantic movie, or at least sold as a romantic movie, as much as like an action adventure or a historical drama. And yet when I watched it again, I had the same thought about, I was expecting this building romance, and it was all of a sudden it just boom, like
Yep.
like she went from telling the one guy. Yeah, I got to give him Duncan credit. As much as he just even had the face of that, they cast a guy with the face of somebody you knew you were gonna like was gonna be smarmy, and that you were gonna be like, yeah, you're a fucking jackass. And yet, the way that he was trying to convince her when they were having that little dinner in the field, I mean, he was making some convincing arguments. Like what, like why are like, and especially at that time, I'd imagine. I mean, for her to be that uh independent is, it's almost like did people really exist that had that kind of um fierce of their own will? It's nice to think that they did, and that Madeline Stowe presented it. I mean, I thought she was outstanding in the movie. Like, she was one of the best parts of the movie. um but I made this convincing argument, and she was like, just hold on, and I'll get back to you about it. And then he certainly shows himself to be the smarmy jerk that we know he is. But how fast their romance went was a little um, surprising to me. I thought it'd be a little bit different than that. Overall, I like the movie, but same thing is, it just didn't. Okay, so this is why I'm confused, because after Matt talked, I was like, yeah, that's exactly how I felt. But then Aaron, you said something, because there's something I couldn't quite put my finger on about this movie, like why it felt a little different. And I don't know how you put it, but something about like like not always seeing every one of the groups in here, the French, the English, even you know, how do you pronounce his name? Magua or whatever, the bad
Magua.
guy.
Mogwai.
Like, even when you learn his history and everybody, like they did a pretty good job of giving you at least some part of you understanding where everybody was coming from.
Yeah.
And so for
Let's go, Trap.
that, you got to give that movie credit for not just being this black and white, like, I mean, I freaking love the movie Apocalypto. If I was still in the movie club, I would have eventually recommended that because it's just this fucking just from beginning to end. Like anybody who sees that movie, I could see you not liking it, but you can't say that you weren't just like, "Whoa," like that it wasn't intense. And but there's just such a freaking clear 100% evil, bad people, good, good guy. And this movie was definitely more, uh, gave you more pause for thought on that. And I really wanted to look at it. Well, no, I didn't want to look at it, but the parts of it that I was like doubting was, is this going to be a little bit like that cookie cutter stuff, even forgetting that it was Michael Mann directing it, where particularly Duncan and some of the characters were going to be just overly drawn as the character you expect to see. And it was definitely more complex than that. And I appreciated that about it. So I'm just going to just bring up a couple points other than that. So I think I liked it more than I thought I did. Does anybody know at the beginning they talked about the Cuyahoga River? Remember that? Like or was I reading that? Like something about
It was
like
Major League.
what?
Nothing.
Major,
That was
oh, well, Major League. But
Yeah.
maybe I was reading about the Last of the Mohicans and they said something about the Cuyahoga. Nobody knows anything about the Cuyahoga River reference. Okay, never mind.
I know there was a beer named after the Cuyahoga River.
There was. I want to have that. The girl chorus, I have to laugh. It's just this inside joke me and my son and daughter have, where ever since they were little, I don't know how it started, but like whenever somebody is like it went from being somebody being a little bit too bombastic or be like a little bit overly expressive where we would just go settle down like that and we would laugh about that, but then it kind of crossed over to like other things where it'd just be like almost anything where you're like the person's just being, so that whole chorus thing, my son was watching it with me and he turned to me and he goes settled and I just started dying laughing. It was funny because my son, and the fact that it was, I didn't even think that scene would be brought up here, but it made me laugh when you brought up the chorus because he was like settled. uh the other thing was the bridge really stood out to me and I was like, I swear I've seen this bridge before. And I remember when I was little, I don't know how old I was, but we went on a vacation. I think must have been younger than 10 because I know we lived in Chicago because we took our camper and we went to the Biltmore Estates. And that bridge is I think on the Biltmore Estates. I think I read that. Do you know the Biltmore? It's the big mansion.
Maryland? Or oh no, that's North Carolina, right?
In North Carolina, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the other thought I had was about somebody made the comment about when they took their life back then. I just sometimes I think about this in a lot of different ways. Like this is like we don't have to talk about this, but like when people take their life, I feel like at that back then, not only did people not live long, but I just felt like people had a way stronger like belief in the afterlife. So, you know, making the decision to take your life versus live under some situation that you couldn't be even remotely authentic or free, um, it was a much easier option because you actually believed taking your life was going to lead to something better. And I mean, raised Catholic, and as much as I've watched and observed my parents, grandparents, and everybody who goes to church all the time, and yet when you talk about death and when you get closer to death, there's just still so much fear. And I like the biggest thing I always wondered growing up in my religion was like, why is everybody that I'm like looking up to fearing death so much if we're also supposed to believe that when you die, everything is glorious and everything's better? Why do we fear it so much? And I think there was a time when their belief was a lot stronger about that. And I think there's still people today that have stronger beliefs. We call some of them crazy because they are, but all right. And then the last comment I have was about Roger Ebert, because I always look up what he says on these things because he always has a good comment. He said, okay. I just got a new phone. Oh, here it is. So Ebert said that the movie was inspired, of course, by the novel by James Fenimore Cooper, whose frontier fantasies were completely demolished in a hilarious essay by Mark Twain. He noted that whenever the plot required a twig to be stepped on, a Cooper character was able to find a twig and step on it, no matter what the difficulty. So Twain was really like slamming on him for being like too obvious. I thought that was kind of funny because I mean, I've read a lot of Mark Twain and his writing is great, but it's not exactly like complex in terms of the narrative direction that it takes. It's usually pretty straightforward, but I was listening to a lot of your comments and I was wondering if people thought in general, maybe people could talk to this, if it felt like the first time you saw it, if you can remember, if the movie took you in places you didn't think it was going to take you, or if it seemed like if there was a twig to step on, it was going to be stepped on.
Nice.
No, I like that term, frontier fantasy. I mean, and we've gone through that several, like the whole romanticizing the West, which would be the next step after this, because right now their frontier is, the eastern edge of Ohio, to about Michigan. They haven't pushed. So like after that, I grew up with the fantasy of the, cowboys and all that stuff. So I like the idea of frontier fantasy. But I definitely, and I kind of already said it, like you asked, what did it take me places that I didn't think I'd go? Yeah, I didn't know that I would watch it and not have a clear group. I thought I'd be rooting for the British and I thought I'd be rooting for the Hurons, because I live in Port Huron and it's a big chunk of like us growing up. And they did a nice job of it showing like the wooden row houses that they lived in rather than the teepees and stuff like that. So that was a Huron thing that I remember learning in like 5th grade. Tim probably remembers because he wrote a report on it for me when I was drunk and lived with him and I passed out. Him and Brian tried to write a paper for me. That was complete trash.
I wish we still had a copy of
Wait,
that.
did he have something due? Did he have something due and then you guys were trying to help him out?
He did. We went to the bar and he was so nervous. He was like, I'm going to fail this course. So
I shouldn't have went to the bar. They're very convincing Larsons.
Aaron had to pass out. Like he was beyond where he could do any work. He went and passed out and Brian and I are like, let's write this report for him and help him out. And us two drunk asses tried real hard.
For the teachers, it wasn't a report. It was a thematic unit. on Native
Oh, that's right.
Americans. So it wasn't like one paper, it was like 19 lessons.
Well, that's not how we wrote it, but we tried.
Hey, no good story ever started. I didn't go to the bar.
Right.
So
we've
yeah.
said that 100 times.
Well, what happened was the word processor I had at the time, like you typed it quietly, but when you hit print, it was a clickety clack. And
was
so
a
we were
dot
trying to be
matrix.
so quiet, and it started clickety clacking, and we woke him up. And he was like, he went to go pee, and he's like, I hear you guys in there. What are you doing? We're like, nothing. Don't worry about it. It's gonna be fine.
You didn't want to surprise him, or you wanted to surprise him, like with your. You thought you were going to save him.
yeah.
Midnight
Look
Elves.
what
We
we
were being
did.
Midnight
Yeah,
Elves.
yeah.
All good intentions.
Larsons
But-
are heroes.
You know, Trap, you had asked if, you know, and I kind of got derailed. If the movie took them places they didn't know they were going to go. Does anybody else want to chime in on that?
I have a comment for that, but I'm gonna save it for when I go because it kind
All
of
right, Melo, you look like you were about to say
theme of what
something.
I'm
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that popped in my head, not at the time when I watched it originally or anything, but this time, again, the whole when they jumped through the waterfall or whatever, like that. I didn't fully get it. So like that didn't seem like, forcing somebody to step on a stick. That seemed a little unique to me, but that was the only thing I thought of.
Maybe that has to do with the director's cut as well. Like there were 3 hours, and all of a sudden it's just under 2 hours. Maybe there's a
Usually
little
a
more of that
director's cut
scene
is
also.
longer, isn't it?
I would love to watch
Like
a
director's
3 hour.
cuts are usually longer. That's why I was
Yep.
surprised this one was shorter.
Again, though, Trap, I looked those up, and from the one that was in the theater originally to this definitive director's cut, there's only like an 8-minute difference. We didn't get the whole 3-hour experience.
Yeah, the
And
three
so
the
there's a
3
lot
hours
that's
was his original, like
Yeah.
before it got released cut, and the studio
We
made it.
need a petition like the Snyder cut.
yeah.
I don't know if I could watch this movie for 3 hours.
I could.
I thought it went pretty quick for what I
Yeah.
thought of it. I thought it was a pretty well paced.
If it was a Snyder cut, it'd be even darker.
That's true.
Yeah.
One other thing, I think Trap brought it up for at least the second time. At least one other person brought it up, was the bridge. Beautiful and all. I thought the bridge was out of place for the time period. Didn't it? Like, I'm like, isn't that like poured concrete?
Yeah, that seemed weird to me.
That was one thing that, like, we talk about, pull you out. I was like, that's odd.
Jen, text your dad.
Yeah. Did your dad yell at Michael Mann?
What the fuck's this bridge doing
Some of
in this
this
movie?
fucking
That's not
bridge.
accurate.
It would not surprise me if all those reenactors started saying stuff like, "This is not accurate. You
This should
cannot
be
use
field
this."
stones held together with rosin and
Dear
Well,
shit.
Just an update. My dad said, "Are you still on the call? You need to call me as soon as you're done." So I'm going to hear all of this stuff. And he also sent me an updated picture of his pay stub from the movie.
that's
Oh.
cool.
Nice.
He got paid $310 for the 5 days.
Oh
Yeah, it's
$1,
5 days.
$1.
It was like 60 hours.
$1
So,
for
yeah.
each mosquito bite.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
For those of you listening, that'll be in the appendices of the podcast.
Yeah, Tim, you're gonna have to send him a link too, so he can
Right.
listen to us talk about him.
Yeah.
and then tell us where we were wrong on everything.
Yes.
We
yes.
might get double-digit listeners on this one.
He'll,
The 9 of us.
If we try real hard.
Jen's dad.
If we try real hard.
he'll definitely hate the spaceship comment.
I liked that comment. That was hilarious. Like, I didn't know where you were going with it until you said that. I was like,
When he said spaceship, then I knew.
Thank you.
Surprised Tim didn't mute him. All right. Thanks, Trap. Glad you're back. Well, glad to see you again. I'm gonna go to Brian, and just so there's no, I'm gonna go next, and Tim, you're gonna bring it home, since this is your movie.
Thank you. I sewed my own costume for it.
I should have.
That's your bit. Costumes are your bit.
That's my
Yeah.
shtick.
A lot of the stuff I have written down about it, everyone said already. I don't have much to add. I was not blown away by the movie. I'm not gonna say I didn't like it, but I just I it didn't do it for me, I guess. I went into it thinking that Daniel Day-Lewis was just going to be amazing, and and I think he was way better in Gangs of New York and There Will Be Blood. But I heard that this, I think we kind of said it, that this movie made him stop acting for a while, and I don't know why. I mean, it's not like you had this, all these scenes that were just so emotionally draining and this, that, and the other. I didn't get that part of it. I did appreciate the speech at the end, like you guys said, though, finally in English, the dad talks. That was basically, I felt it was freeing him from any responsibilities by the dad saying, "Hey, I'm the last of Mohicans. You go do your thing with Cora, and you're free to, move on from the Native American ways." So I thought that was a good, coming of age part of it. Like he let him move on. I Mogwai, I just no. Nope. I every time they said his name, I just kept thinking of Gremlins. So I'm gonna call him. But I mean, the guy in like everybody, Dan, you were like just shitting on the guy, but it was like he's got his own reasons. And I mean, this could be a different movie where he's getting his revenge, and you're gonna think, hey, not a bad character, because these people came in and killed his family. I believe it was called Gladiator. So they, I mean, point of view is a big thing in life. So, but yeah, I would also, when they were using the canoe in the river to get by, I kind of had the scene from Pirates of the Caribbean in my head. It's like, turn the canoe over and walk, and you got the air bubble. They could have gotten, they didn't have to sit in that canoe, but
hit him with the
You've
physics,
seen
Aaron.
the math on the physics.
Hit him
on
with the
that, right?
physics.
No, Aaron, I didn't. I disbelieved it. I disbelieve physics.
Oh,
So, but yeah, my biggest sticking point was kind of like Melo. I don't know why the women didn't jump with him. Leave the British guy behind, hit him over the head, take the women and go. And but that's a different movie if that happens. So, not mad that I watched the movie for Stump the Chump reasons. And when she said it first, I was like, if this is the line Tim's talking about, this is fucking bullshit, because there is no reason anyone should have got it from that. But then there was the big moment.
Well, can I ask, what is everybody's first thought when they hear "I will find you"?
Not this movie.
That scene in the under
Isn't
the
it
waterfalls,
Taken?
clearly.
The movie
Taken.
Taken.
Well,
Correct.
But when we did this, Taken
movie
wasn't out
didn't
yet.
exist.
Yeah.
I've never seen it.
It was Wizard of Oz came to mind. But yeah, no, he stumped us both. He won the game.
Like forever, kind of. I mean, we're still talking about this fucking movie.
Sorry, Jen.
Yeah, not that it's a bad movie. It's just like
Yeah.
it's Tim. It's like
One of
Tim
our
did it
favorite
to
childhood
us.
memories, and now it's a fucking movie because
Yeah.
stuff the chump.
And Aaron, your university, they were Hurons at one point.
Mhm.
Before
Not when I
becoming
went
the
there, but
Eastern Michigan Eagles, they were the Hurons, and kind of shitty people, actually, if you fighting with the French and all that. So I'm surprised they made a university about them. But that's really all I have to say about it. And
They made
thanks for
a
picking the movie.
university.
hang on, Brian.
Yeah, we got
Brian,
some
where-
history lessons to do here.
Yeah, I'm kidding, joking, all joking. Jeez,
Brian, where did you grow up?
Dearborn started in Detroit.
In Detroit, French word.
Yep. De toi.
I mean, we got a lot of French influence around here, and they kind of made it seem, and I know it was coming from, Jesus, I'm going to call him Magua, 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 coming from
Magua.
Magua.
The French call it Magua.
With 2 U's for some reason. But he seemed like, and they kind of portrayed the French as maybe like better colonizers for, lack of a better term. And, I don't know. He seemed to like him, but I think he liked that they hated the British, and that's all he really wanted. So, but yeah.
Can I ask you, did anybody remember studying the French Indian War?
I remember studying it, but I don't remember anything about it.
I remember.
The main thing I remember was that the French and Indian were on the same side,
Yeah.
and that was always confusing.
Yeah, I remember being corrected on that, thinking it was the French versus the Indians.
Yeah,
And
that's what I
somebody's
thought
like,
too.
"Oh, it was the French and Indian against."
I'm not saying anything about history, so my dad cannot correct me or yell at me for not knowing.
This is where we need your dad to make a cameo appearance.
So what
But
I was
do
thinking,
love the silence. The silence is deafening.
Yeah. While watching this, I was thinking that during the Revolutionary War, because that comes up in my mind because of Jen's background here as I'm watching this, is that the French sided with the colonists, right? The French were a pretty big ally in the Revolutionary War.
Right.
And so I had a hard time looking at them as some kind of enemy just because of that historical perspective.
I know it took a while. Ben Franklin was going over to France for a long time trying to convince them to help us.
And banging whores. So
I left that part out.
Yeah. But as Melo said, I don't know as much as I should or would like to about either one of those wars. And I like that this movie makes me think about them.
All right. Well, even looking up what George Lake that they were talking about and Albany in the distance, I was like, oh, I'd never looked that up on a map before. And yeah, they are kind of like from Google Earth, they're right next to each other. I didn't know how far they were traveling. I didn't know how close it was to Lake Huron, any of that. And I got a way better perspective on it just from, showing a little interest in this movie. Brian, you good? I don't want to move on.
Yeah, I said I was done. Yeah. Thank you.
I've listened to a few of the podcasts.
Yeah. There've been
we step on your audio a lot.
And that goes well.
It's usually good for laughs.
Yeah.
When you freak out.
I'm not done.
Brian, when you talked about him being done with acting, he's a method actor, so he did live on the land or off the land for like 2 months before he did this role, like hunting, fishing, doing his own. So maybe he just needed a break from life.
I was thinking that too when you said that. Like, think about Jen's dad meeting Michael Mann on another set and having Michael Mann go, "Oh, I'm sorry about that." Yeah. And then think about the method actor who immersed himself in it even more so. I could see why he'd be like, you know what? I'm going to take a break. This is too much for me as a human being.
Question. I know I don't obviously have a ton to contribute here, but do we think Michael Mann directed this movie the way he did because of Daniel Day-Lewis? Because it seems like he put something different into Last of the Mohicans. Just from what everybody's saying. I
know he loved the old movie as a child, so I thought maybe that's why he put so much emphasis in this movie, because it was something that he loved when he was a kid. The original, or not the original movie, I guess it's the second movie, because there was one in the 1920s, right?
Okay, I was curious.
I don't know Michael Mann's entire resume, but is there another period piece that he did? Because most of his stuff is pretty modern, I think.
Didn't he do Heat?
He
Yeah.
did Heat.
Yeah,
He did
Okay,
Heat.
we watched.
And he
Okay,
did the one about like the whistleblower with cigarettes.
Insider. The
Sound like an
Insider.
idiot. Thank you. Okay.
But again, those are rather modern. I think this is the only one he did that was like a period piece. And please feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but maybe it's because of that because he is a detail oriented guy, and take him outside of his comfort zone and put him in a period piece, and he just made everybody really uncomfortable. As Jen's
Ali,
dad is
if you
pointing
did
count
out.
Ali.
Yeah.
Oh,
Public Enemies.
And
oh,
of
Did
course,
he
Collateral.
Did he
Hancock.
do To Live and Die in LA? Was that him?
He did
I
LA
don't know.
Takedown.
Oh.
But Public Enemies is a period piece, right?
I digress. Aaron, as you were.
All right, so to what's the literary term for second to last? Penultimate.
Penultimate.
As the penultimate comment on the movie. Didn't blow me away. I was actually looking, or not looking, for a little more, excited about a little more, and I brought it up last week about how some people think it's this movie of the three versions is should be on the top 25 of movies ever made, and other people, the term was either grossly or significantly overrated. I thought there'd be both sides of the coin on this one. I'm kind of right down the middle. I think the numbers on it were like 82 and 88, somewhere around there, 80s. I would agree. If I was to write a review on it, or give it 4, 3 3/4 stars out of 5, whatever. It was good. Kind of like what Brian was saying. Didn't really know who Daniel Day-Lewis was until I saw Gangs in New York. I knew the name. I knew he was, great actor, and Method. Really even wasn't sure what Method was at the time until I saw Gangs in New York, and I was like, oh, that's what that is. I get that, maybe he lived in the woods and hunted and fished for a while. I didn't really get the super immersed method of what he had to do for this one. His hair was long and he was in good shape. But other than that, maybe the Mohawk language he was speaking was super authentic, and he had all the accents, inflections right and stuff like that. So maybe that drove him nuts, or at least, took stuff out of him. But all that aside, I thought it was a fine movie. I thought it was good. I'd watch it again. I'd be interested in watching a different version of it, like a director's cut, or a version of this one that maybe somebody says has a few more minutes on the falling in love, or the reason they jumped out of the cave through the waterfall, just to see if it makes a little more sense. But like I said, it's fine the way it is. One of the top 25 movies of all time. I can't get behind that at all. Couple things. There was some, I don't know, psychology issues that I don't know if I question, or like, so I get the shit heel Englishman who loved the girl, proposed at the tea set in the middle of the forest, or in the middle of the field. They obviously had a backstory. They've known each other for some time. I don't know if it's from childhood or teenage, whatever. They're obviously both from the aristocratic class. So, and somebody brought it up earlier, Trap, maybe, the having the wherewithal. It doesn't seem like the time period for a girl. You have this guy who's definitely moving up the ranks. You don't say no. That's the best offer you're going to get. You're going to, finish out this war in America, and you're going to go be royalty basically in England. You're going to, every need's going to be met. And for her to say no to that, it's like, what did he do wrong? What kind of guy does she really know he is? Because up until that point, he didn't really seem like a shitheel other than his face. But then he turns so quickly, and just says, yeah, that conversation never happened. And the frontiersmen, were never promised that they'd be able to leave, and just lies in front of her because he has no more use for her. He doesn't need to care what she thinks about him anymore. And maybe just to hurt the people she likes. But I didn't get, I want to believe he was a good person and he was really hurt and he made a bad decision, because him making the decision at the end to say, take me instead of saying take him instead, which he was supposed to do, he was asked to do, but he made it me. A good redemption arc, but kind of unbelievable from what we know about him. So I want to say there's maybe more about his past we might learn from another 10 minutes, that he really was a good guy and he was really devastated by her rejecting him, which obviously he was, but like he became despicable, and then redeemed or tried to redeem it at the end. Which I don't know if it's the opposite, but Magua, like I said, I kind of sympathized with him, kind of saw things or tried to see things from his point of view. And I wished he would have had a redemption at the end, and he never got one because he was absolutely going to do bad things to that girl. And I felt it when he held his hand out to her. I felt that was the most disingenuous, grab my hand, I'll help you. She
I'm a good guy now.
Right.
Yeah.
She 100% did the right thing by jumping. So there was just some different psychological, and I guess that probably made it interesting too. Psychological things that didn't quite make sense, but I found interesting. So it kept my interest. And maybe he's a genius that way. But other than that, like I said, to me, Tim, I'm glad I watched it. If you were lost, I would find you.
That was nice.
I waited all this time.
Can I also say really quickly, I text my dad while we're talking and I said, why did the Mohicans jump out of the waterfall and leave the British guy and the girls behind? And my dad's response was, no prompting, because he wanted to say, stay alive and I will find you.
It was just to get the line. This whole movie is for that line.
I agree.
I kept asking, I asked him something else and he said, it's a movie. I don't know. I never read the book.
That's the best answer ever.
That's great.
It's a movie. Lighten up. But with that, Tim, I'm going to pass the torch to you and you're going to tell us all why this is your favorite movie that you've ever seen in the entire world.
Yeah. Well, I didn't pick it. You did. So, I really like your 3 3/4 out of 5 ranking. I would give it the same. And having said that, I would say that I love this movie. I think it's okay to love a movie that's not a perfect 5, right? And that's how I feel about this particular movie. I think it's great. I do really enjoy the score. I enjoy the music, and I also completely agree that it's overused. Like, come on, man, give us a little break with the music. Like, when they're not running, you don't have to play that same song every time. That's kind of how I feel while I'm watching it. However, I've got a bunch of stuff. Is this a romance or is this an action movie? Or bigger question, is this a social commentary? Because what is this story really about? I mean, it's a famous book for a reason, right? Like, how often can you take a very powerful French culture, a very powerful English culture with a bunch of sticks up their asses and a superiority complex, and tons of different Native American cultures, and put them in one small place and have human nature create so much tension? I think there's something about this story that we miss because there's a romance aspect to this, and a plot into this movie, I think there's an awful lot about how much the English thought they owned the whole world and how everybody who wasn't English was beneath them. That's the thing for me that makes Duncan such a despicable character, is he has all kinds of honor until he comes across somebody who he believes is beneath him, and then he could fucking care less about that person, and it's just time to hang you if you don't agree with me. That's just the English way. We own everything. And that's what honestly got them in so much fucking trouble. People were tired of it and said, okay, fuck you. Here's the, here's all your tea in the harbor. And I'm going to make friends with the French. And here's a declaration of independence. Fuck you guys for thinking you're better than me. So
to all our European listeners, not everyone shares the same view as Tim Larson. So.
But I really
Tim, along the lines of what you're saying, it's almost like their look of the world, their culture and their rules and how things are set up. Even when the frontiersmen want to leave, it's like they have a hierarchy to, if any man leaves tonight, he'll be shot. And that's
right.
worse than the people that are thinking about leaving. They'll be hung.
That's right.
It's like, doesn't really matter, but to
However,
them, it's like, it's so much
I'm
more
going to leave in 2 days honorably.
Right. But it's
right.
It's so much more indignant to be shot. It's almost a privilege to be hung.
Yeah.
It's like, what do you, what?
Yeah. And then take that culture, that tea and crumpets in the middle of a grassy field culture, and put that right up against Native Americans running around wearing hardly anything covering them, but the most important thing to them is their connection to nature and wildlife and respecting the land they're on. And take those cultures and put them in a small area and watch what happens. I think that's for me a bigger part of this story than the love connection or the action involved in the war. And what makes you not jump to that is that the love connection is so forward in this movie, and the scenes where they are getting they're walking in line and they're getting ambushed. Those scenes are cinematically gorgeous. Like the smoke coming out of the rifles and the Englishmen counting to 4 and then shooting, and they're just hiding behind the trees. Like, I swear to God, you're not going to believe this. They're going to count to 4 and they're going to shoot, and then we could just go kill them all. Like, I think there's something really romantic about the difference in cultures, even in that ambush scene, and it's shot so beautifully. I just, the smoke involved and the running back and forth and the green in the background is incredible. So I will say that I think in this Daniel Day-Lewis is a real good looking dude in here, and it makes perfect sense. And she would look at him one time and go, I was supposed to marry this guy. And she even says, she's like, when I talk to you, my blood boils about this country. That has nothing to do with the lay of the land. Her blood was not boiling because of the nature and the scenery. He's just a real good looking dude. And I don't mind saying that out loud. I love that the action's nonstop. Yes, there's a lot of running. There's a lot of action, but it builds tension constantly. And I don't know about you guys. I didn't take a break to go get a drink or anything. I just let that thing go. Let's see. Despicable. Magua. Question. Who's the more despicable character? Magua or Duncan?
I read something about Magua being like literally evil, like the incarnation of evil.
I do like the line, his heart is twisted. I love that line. It sums him up perfectly. But I mean, Duncan is honorable to a point. Magua has reasons to have a twisted heart and want revenge. And so I don't know that I have an answer to that. I'm just going to say I think that's a good thing about this movie is think about who's the more despicable.
I think in the end, though, Duncan did, save the girl and sacrifice himself.
That's true.
And Daniel Day-Lewis.
That's
right,
true.
but he was also willing to have all the frontiersmen get murdered or killed in the fort by not letting them leave.
Saying he's great.
Yeah,
not a role model.
Yeah. The sister jumping off of the cliff. I see it and I get it, because in her head, she's like, I thought I found something, and this guy just killed my man. Like I thought I had a path in life that I was very excited about, and now it's gone. And all I have is I'm going to be a slave here and probably get killed here. And who knows what kind of experience I'm about to have. Fuck this, I'm jumping over the thing. It's just, she didn't know they were right around the corner. Like, if she didn't jump, she'd have ended up okay. That's a really fucking hard thing for me to be all right with in this movie.
I see, and somebody else said, I never took it as she jumped because he got killed. I think it was just she was trying to escape him.
Yeah, it was two things. I think it was two things, Brian. I think he got killed, and now I got to be a sex slave. She, by the way, that actress, I don't know if anybody looked her up. The only real thing that I found that she's in after this is in Game of Thrones, when Cersei is a young girl and going out to the edges of their area, and there's a witch in a hut. She's the witch. Yeah. That actress is the witch that's in that hut.
Yeah.
And then let's see. I two things, I think, and then I'll be done here, and we can move on with our lives. One, Aaron, have you? So three, I guess. Have you seen There Would Be Blood?
No, now that we talked about this last week.
Okay, that's something that you should do. I'm editing these podcasts and they're coming out, and we're quite a few weeks ahead. And I just listened to Hacksaw Ridge not too long ago. And one thing we talked about with that character was how much conviction that he had. I have a religious conviction. I won't carry a gun. I believe I should be part of this, and I also believe that I shouldn't have a gun. And he took so much shit for it. And I thought of that with this movie and how much conviction so many of these people had, including Magua, including Duncan, including what was the general's name that was the daughter's dad? Monroe?
Gray hair. Monroe and gray hair.
Yeah. And then of course Hawkeye and his father, like just to live in those environments, and the conviction that they all had for their own way of life, I think is a really important part of this movie, and a pretty cool thing. That I think for a lot of these characters is on the same level as the conviction we talked about with Hacksaw Ridge. And then the last thing I'll say is just to protect myself here. Aaron picked this for the line, "I will find you," and the correct inflection when you say that is I will find you. You have to emphasize the will. Yeah. And so what's really funny, and I thought Aaron would bring this up to head this off.
Sounds like walking.
Yeah, thank you.
I will find
not on purpose. Not on purpose. The last thing that Aaron sent, and you guys don't even know, like we could go 8-9 months without talking or texting, and then Aaron would just send me something with an "I will find you" reference in it. He's been doing this for 20 years. He did this recently within the past 6 months, and it was a Seinfeld episode where Jerry Seinfeld is saying, "Kramer, stay alive. I will find you." And I was like, "Aaron, you dumbass, you're making fun of me for this. That's actually a quote from the movie. Like the Seinfeld episode is referencing the movie that I quoted."
Really?
You dumbass. So that's all I wanted to say about that.
When I saw this was the 200th movie, I was like, what? Like, I mean, it didn't have freaking a scene with glow in the dark condoms. So like why did you pick this? And then hearing that it has this backstory it makes all the sense in the world now. So
Well
because
played,
of
Aaron
because of
Lashbrook.
anything,
Well played.
because of anything, if not for the Larsons, I wouldn't have known that. One, if I was so nervous and it's 200, it's got to be special. What could it be? And then I just went, what would Tim do? And I just roundabout, like I keep blaming Tim, but I kind of just made it about me. So
that is what I would do. All right. Does anybody else have any comments about the movie, The Last of the Mohicans? Can we put a bow on this one? All right. This is
one last.
Yeah. Let's go.
No,
Chad.
I really don't. I'm not going to end it with that. Never mind.
All right. This is normally the part of the podcast where we would say, or this is just what we did in a group before anybody got here to listen from outside. We would say what the next movie is. It is Mike Hilty's pick. And Mike couldn't be here because he's honestly in some place in the world where I don't even know. He was in Australia. He was in New Zealand. I don't know where he is today. So
you're giving his pick to me, Flash Gordon.
Well, again, we've already watched that. But you can listen to the podcast. Right?
All right,
but I want to say one, I'll send all of you guys when Hilty gets back to me what it is. But we say this all the time when we're off camera. But hey, on the 200th episode, let's say this. I'm so glad we do this. I'm so glad we get to just have a moment outside of our lives to talk and bullshit together and enjoy this, have a couple of beers. Some of us are in Europe. Some of us are, haven't been here in a little while. I love doing this with you guys. Thank you for being here tonight. It's great to see everybody.
Cheers.
Yeah,
cheers, Tim. Glad I'm here.
Good to see everybody.
Glad you talked me into it.
Thanks for having me back for one.
Yeah, absolutely. So, ladies and gentlemen, you can get ready for episode number 201, and we have no idea what that is.
That will do it for today's episode of the BTB Movie Club podcast. Thank you, as always, for listening. We know we enjoyed ourselves. We hope you did too. Have yourselves a great week. We are partnered with the SBDM Crew Podcasting Network.